To me, Just Before Dawn from 1981 is what happens if you mix The Hills Have Eyes, 1977, Wes Craven classic, and the 1980 trauma exploitation film Mother's Day, but suck out any positive quality, save for maybe the cool isolated settings in those movies, right? Yeah. So going into this movie, I had actually never heard of it. I'd never seen anything about it. I was just scrolling through Shudder, and it was in the slasher section. And I pretty much added every slasher movie that they have in their library to a list, and I'm just kind of randomly picking a number and just clicking and or watching basically whatever number I happen to land on. Like there's 20 slashers, right, that I add to a list, and I just pick a number between 1 through 20, and I've watched them the past couple nights. And this movie is about a group of 5 friends, one of which has inherited, I guess, some land up in some Oregon mountains, and essentially they're going out to hike slash claim it, I guess, in an RV. And I'm sure you can guess the setup. They're stalked, allegedly, and terrorized. This is per the logline slash brief synopsis on Shudder, by menacing and hulking figures as they try and escape and make it out to dawn. There's only one thing that is right with that statement, and I will say they do get terrorized and stalked, I guess, but hulking and menacing figures, characters, antagonists. Wow, this movie is just ridiculous. It's laughably bad, and not in a good way. It definitely draws comparison to Hills Have Eyes, because you have these inbred family living out in the middle of nowhere. In this movie, it's in the woods. Obviously, in Hills Have Eyes, it's in the Nevadan desert, but both very secluded, isolated, kind of creepy atmospheres. And I will say the movie's atmosphere and cinematography at times is pretty good. Now, at the other token, there's a long period of time where fucking nothing happens, and you're kind of sick of just watching the same, scenes and shots of them just hiking through the woods and playing in a lake, and some stuff kind of maybe happens, but then ultimately it leads up to nothing. Like the scene where they're literally playing in the water and one of the killers gets in, you're like, hell yeah, he's gonna drown him, and the only drowning that happens is a fucking prank, and nothing ultimately happened. Like it's that happened way too much, because there was like a 40-ish minute period after like the prologue where nothing fucking happened. But anyway, yeah, it draws similarities to The Hills Have Eyes, in that there's a family with it's an adult, or it's a man, his wife, his daughter, and their 2 mutant sons, right? Similarly to The Hills Have Eyes lunar clan, if you will, except the patriarch of the family here in Just Before Dawn is nothing like Papa Jupiter. Nowhere near as cool, and just in general, he's not really an evil character. But you do learn in a pretty ridiculous scene that, in fact, the family of characters that you see throughout the movie, and they basically just pose as like these people, daddy always carrying a fucking double barrel shotgun, like, hey, please leave our property, you're gonna release the demons. And so you kind of have an idea that maybe they're in line with these two antagonists, but it's confirmed later on, right? And you have a kind of a Ruby-esque character, and I think her name is like Mary Cat or something, a fucking weird name. So the 2 twin brothers or whatever, who are the murderers, they're very like deformed and clearly inbred, but the woman who is like their younger sister looks just like a normal girl. Which, you know, now that I think about it, that's pretty accurate with Ruby as well. But you know, spoiler alert, Ruby's a badass in Hills Have Eyes, and she actually saves what is left of the Carter family, and she's just an awesome character. Mary Cat, on the other hand, I mean, the most noble thing she does is try and help kind of take down her evil brothers, because, you know, just like Ruby, she's not with that killing shit. So kudos to her, but she's not nearly as interesting or, you know, as well written of a character as Ruby, and Ruby isn't even that big of a character in Hills Have Eyes, save for the ending, straight up. But shout out to Mary Cat. She somehow manages to seduce, despite being probably underage and just in general like malnourished, she somehow manages to seduce one of the characters who just got done skinny dipping with his girlfriend into not only like making out with him, but also like he chases after her because I guess he's just horny. And he ends up getting himself killed because if he didn't chase after her, he wouldn't have run into the twin. I don't even know what the fuck they're called. In the what do you call it? The closed captions they have whenever they're on the screen and they like make noise. They don't speak. It's like twin. I'm just gonna call them the twin dumb fuck characters, because that's basically what they are. And you know, it draws comparisons. Like I said, Two Hills Have Eyes pretty well. Wrong Turn definitely in the, you know, inbreeding and also the setting. Sorry, not Wrong Turn. Mother's Day. Although I don't believe Mother's Day, there's no inbreeding in Mother's Day, but similar kind of setting deep in the woods. And both of the characters in Mother's Day are miles more interesting and entertaining and likable as antagonists than the two fucking stupid ass twin dumb fucks in this movie. They have similar intelligence, probably, but those guys can at least speak, and those guys at least are funny with the Rocky montage and the disco versus punk bullshit that they go on when the freaking cereal scene. Like, Mother's Day is a fucking weird movie, but I actually like that one a lot. It's very entertaining. Wish I could say the same for this movie. So yeah, it shares a little bit of Wrong Turn. Now I think about it, Wrong Turn came out years later. But yeah, Mother's Day and Hills Have Eyes, right? You combine the two, suck out any redeeming qualities, and you have Just Before Dawn. The characters are boring. The group of five, none of them stand out. After about 5 minutes of the kind of introductory scene of them driving through the mountains in their RV, you can kind of already tell, like, all right, you have respectfully the, you know, bimbo female character that is par the course in slashers. You have the geeky, like, fifth wheeling dude who I believe is the brother of one of the characters, hence the reason he comes along for the ride. And then you have the Owen Wilson / Paul from Friday the 13th Part 2 balding motherfucker named is his name Michael? What is his name? Warren. That's it. How did I forget? Yeah, his name's fucking Warren. And then his girlfriend, who you just kind of can fit. You can kind of tell she's a little bit more mature than the rest of them, and she's got good intentions and just overall is a smarter person than the rest. So you're like, all right, she's probably gonna be the final girl, right? And like of the five, the closest one to me that's likable is probably the geeky character. I believe his name's Daniel, and it's mainly because he has like a camera. I mean, otherwise, you can kind of take it or leave it. None of them do anything. none of them are cool. I don't like any of them. I don't necessarily hate any of them, but Warren is kind of a douchebag, and he's balding, and he's gotta be like 35, playing what I'm presuming are like early 20s, maybe. I don't know. Setting is cool though. I like the atmosphere and some of the cinematography, despite a little bit of it being hindered by the fact that for a majority of the goddamn movie, you're just like admiring some of the shots and being like, "Oh, look at this cool, pretty waterfall." Um, on the other hand, some of the shots and scenes are not well executed at all. There are several shots where in one frame a character is like really close to one of the two characters are really close to another, and then it just changes perspective and they're noticeably further away, or like the shots are just not sequenced well, right? And like the deer, when they hit the deer in the RV, like it is absolutely ridiculous. Like they did not do a good job shooting this movie. And you know, maybe they used lighting and, you know, pretty cinematography by virtue of the forest around them and the waterfalls to mask some of that. I don't know. The sound design, there are like these little ominous whistling in the background. To me, it's whatever. I didn't really think it added much, just because I don't know, it just wasn't all that interesting. And the killers do this like little cackling, like high pitched cackling, I guess, whenever they're, you know, playing with their prey, with the victims. Like they are ridiculous. They are truly one of a kind bad. Like it just I don't get it. Who came up with the idea of who wrote these villains? Like there's nothing wrong with having like stupid and goofy antagonists, you know? I think in the case of Mother's Day, or, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where there's, you know, clearly a cognitive drop and dip, and like this guy's a fucking idiot, you know, he's clearly not very smart. But these guys are just like, what the fuck? Like it's ridiculous. The one thing that I think they do that's kind of funny is they, for every person they kill, they decide to like randomly take a piece of their clothing. And so they take this guy's orange beanie, which is kind of funny. They take one of the young adults' flannel jackets. And also he takes the camera from Daniel once he inevitably kills them. And so that was kind of funny. Plus, like they like will poke him with the machete, like whenever they're, you know, the adults are inevitably tripping and falling in the woods and they're close behind, you know, poke them with the machete just for fun and just, you know, play with their food. I don't think they eat them. But the kills, there's not a single good kill in this movie. I don't think. There are some machete stabbings, but I don't think they're executed all that well. One of the characters gets like falls off of a rope bridge and somehow dies, even though it doesn't look like he falls that far. I mean, it's probably like 30 or 40 feet, but it's in the water, but it is pretty shallow, I guess. But kind of a weak way to go out in a slasher. The gore effects are, you know, just kind of whatever. They're not awful, you know, they're not super cheesy, but they're nothing special. And you know, the finale, if you will, between a character. So let me back up. The core characters, I don't care for them. The Ruby knockoff character, Mary Cat, I don't really give a shit about her. The 5 adult characters, I don't give a shit about any of them. And then, you know, obviously the 2 main killers are ridiculous and I can't take them seriously, and it's just like it's trying to be funny and like haha, but you know, it's no, I like the Mother's Day brothers, but these guys are just stupid. And then, you know, their parents or whatever, they're not in the movie long enough for me to give a shit. But I will say, at the very beginning, the little prologue that introduces you to the killer, I guess. I just want to say as soon as I saw, whenever one of the characters looked up and saw him in the hole in the ceiling, I was like, please don't let these be the killers. This is ridiculous. Tell me it's like a costume or something. Anyway, there are a couple familiar faces. There are two familiar faces in this movie. The first one that you see plays. I don't know the actors' names. I don't really pay attention to that. But it's the same guy who wound up playing the the camp director in Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp, much better movie, and that's saying something because I don't really think that movie's all that good. He's an awful character in that movie, a piece of shit, prioritizing profit over young children dying. But it was kind of cool to see him in this movie. It's always fun to see different horror characters not reprise, but pop up in different other horror movies, especially like from one slasher to another. Sleepaway Camp is a pretty seminal early 80s slasher film, for reasons whatever. It still is regardless. His character, he's not around enough, and just in general he's kind of poorly written. His acting's pretty bad too, and just his character is just weird. Like he survives the very beginning when his buddy gets killed, and he actually runs into the group in their RV, and they decide to leave him behind. And he just kind of passes out when he sees that one of the dumbfuck twins hops on the RV, which is ridiculous. And I guess he's just drunk, right, the rest of the movie. But he doesn't appear enough to really make a difference, but it was kind of fun to see him in the movie. But the other familiar face, and in my opinion, the best tangible thing in this movie that wasn't, the beautiful waterfalls and the mountains in Oregon, that pretty much wasn't, that you can't credit that much to the movie itself, it's just the setting, is the Roy character, who essentially is a local who kind of knows about the brothers. I think he knows there's some weird shit that goes on. I don't know. It's kind of, at one point he says he doesn't know that this, like, the murders would happen, but I don't know. He's from Creepshow 2, a much better movie than this. He played Old Man Spruce in the Wooden Indian Chief story, which is the best story from that movie. I loved him in that. I was, spoiler alert, I was rooting for him. And, the way he and his wife pass away or are murdered in that story is like what makes the revenge arc of that specific anthology short in Creepshow 2 so goddamn good, because you really are pissed whenever his character passes away, because he's great in that movie and he's pretty good in this movie too. He is basically the elderly man who takes it upon himself to go back and try and save the group, after warning them not to go up there. But they just, they do it anyway because homeboy he has the deed to all this land apparently. But he's a really likable character. He loves his plants and his horse, and he gives off the same energy as he did in Creepshow 2. But again, his appearances in this movie are so fucking scant. Like, it's funny, right? He runs into Ty, aka Sleepaway Camp director, and he basically tells him, like, I saw those kids, they're fucked, they're gonna die. And so our boy Roy is like, I warned them, but you know what, I'll go save them, right? And so he does that in like the evening of one of the days, and there's shots of him riding around on his horse in the woods. And then the next day comes, And fast forward to that night, he's still looking for them. And like he just, I don't know, he doesn't have enough screen time for whatever reason. And like his whole, I don't know, they just find a way to botch even the bet. Like they find a way to botch and minimize the effectiveness of the cinematography and the atmosphere and the setting, and they find a way to, you know, botch slash include the best part slash character of the movie, his presence. Like it's insane. This movie sucks ass. But you know, yeah, he's a badass. He ends up shooting one of the dumb fuck twins in the head, which is pretty cool. But like, it's so weird, right? I guess maybe he doesn't know there's two of them, and possibly the two surviving characters didn't know there was two of them. I guess that's valid. But like, he just kind of disappears and just leaves them alone. Like, I don't know. He tells them that he'll like send people to come back for the bodies of their friends, and then it just cuts to a different scene altogether of the two surviving young adult characters at like their camp, and he's just gone and he never returns in the movie. Kind of weird. You know, once again, he's in the movie a decent amount and then he's gone. Like it just, he's not in the movie a decent amount. He's not in the movie enough, and I would have loved to see him in the showdown versus the second dumb fuck twin. And this has to be the most ridiculous finale showdown between a final girl and a slasher villain ever. You know, once again, the killers are fucking idiots. They have rocks for brains. And our boy, balding Owen Wilson / Paul from Friday the 13th Part 2, absolutely taken out of the action, gets like stabbed or whatever. So he just sits and watches while his girlfriend steps up and, you know, they tango for a little bit. And the way that she defeats twin dumbfuck number 2 has to be the most ridiculous and ham-fisted villain death ever. She fucking... she like chokes him or strangles him by putting her fist down his throat? What? What? Like, how does that work? That cannot work. That is so ridiculous. And the best part, as I said, some of the camera work was kind of shoddy. the like brief shot of her fist going in his mouth. His mouth looks, he looks like a fucking, he looks like a, I don't know, like an iguana or something. Like his head is just massive. Like the prosthetic, it looks so bad. It looks so fucking bad. But like, yeah, she just like shoves her fist in his mouth for like, I don't know, 45 seconds on screen. And the whole time I'm thinking, what am I watching? And two, like, does he not have teeth? Is he not able to, despite having a fist in his throat, like, able to wrestle her off of him, or what? Like he's paralyzed, and somehow she kills him. You know, some horror movie villains, you'll shoot them, you'll stab them, they'll get impaled, and they'll just come right back. They'll get their hand chopped off in the event of the killer from Slumber Party Massacre. But no, to take out these dumb fucks, you know, just shoot them in the head, which makes sense. Or shove your fucking fist in their mouth for like a minute and they're down for the count. Yeah, and that's it. There's no, the movie just ends with, you know, the same shot that it began with, of just like the dawn of the mountain landscape. Yeah, the just before dawn doesn't really make sense. Also, I just wanted to throw that out there because this movie takes place over like a 4-day span. So I guess maybe at the very end it's just before dawn, but nothing happens at dawn. I thought maybe like that's when the demons come out. I don't fucking know. But anyway, no, I mean, there's some laughable moments in this movie and there's some goofy things, and I truly do like Roy's character, but this movie still finds a way to fail and or not reach the potential of the few positives it has going for it, which is that's impressively bad. I'm gonna go. It is a slasher. I am impartial to slashers. I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 5. Um, some of it's laughable. The ending is just like, what the fuck? I was like, nah, bro, that's not real. He can't be dead. Like, he's gonna come back alive. No, he's actually dead. Like, what? What? Of all the ways to take out a slasher villain? Oh my god. Yeah, it's a 1 out of 5. I'm not gonna watch this bullshit again. Um, it's a skip for any slasher slash horror fan, but if you're a slasher fan, you're probably willing to sit through just about any slasher film. And it is very early 80s independent slasher, so you might get a little bit of enjoyment out of it. And then, you know, I got a star's worth of enjoyment out of it, I guess, you know. But it's really bad. It's one of the worst horror movies I've seen in quite a while.